Welcome to Python Arguz. Have you ever used a command like python backup, -5 folder documents -zip in your terminal? That's a command line interface, and in this tutorial, you'll learn how to build exactly that using Python's built-in Arguz module. By the end, you'll be able to write Python scripts that accept input directly from the terminal, just like professional tools do. What exactly is Arguz? Arguz is a module that comes built into Python, so no installation is needed. It lets your script accept values from the terminal when it's run, instead of hard coding everything inside the script. Think of it this way. Instead of editing your script, every time you want to change a file name or a setting, you just pass it as an argument when running the script. The benefits are huge. It's built into Python with no install needed. It provides automatic help messages. It includes type validation, and it handles errors for you. Let's start with the simplest possible example. Create a file called greet.py. We import argv, then create an argument parser with a description. We add a positional argument called name using add_argv. Then we parse the arguments with parse_argv. Finally, we print a greeting using arg's name to access the value the user passed in. When you run python greet.py Alice from the terminal, you'll see hello Alice printed to the output. The key thing to remember is that add_argv with just a string creates a required positional argument that the user must provide. Positional arguments are inputs the user must provide. There's no skipping them. In this example, we add two positional arguments, file name and destination. Each one has a help parameter that describes what it does. This help text shows up when someone runs python script.py-help. When you run python script.py report-comsi, results /, the output shows. Processing report-comsi arrow, saving to results /. The order matters with positional arguments. They're processed left to right exactly as the user types them. Optional arguments start with /, and the user can include them or leave them out. In this example, we have a required positional argument for fill name and an optional flag called --uppercase. We use action equals store true, which means if the flag is present, the value is set to true. If it's not there, it stays false. No value is needed, just the flag itself. When you run Python script bypynotes.txt without the flag, you get processing::notes.txt in normal case. But when you add --uppercase, the output becomes processing::notes.txt in all caps. What if the user doesn't provide an optional argument? You can set a fallback with the default parameter. Here, we have a required file name argument and an optional --lines argument with type int and default equals 10. When you run python script.pylog.txt without specifying lines, the output showing 10 lines from log.txt because it uses the default. But if you run python script.pylog.txt text-a-d lines 25, it showing 25 lines from log.txt instead. Default values make your scripts more user-friendly by providing sensible fallbacks. By default, everything passed from the terminal is treated as a string. Use the type parameter to convert it automatically. You can use type equals int for integers, type equals float for decimal numbers, or even type equals open to open a file directly and get a file object. If the user passes the wrong type, like a word where a number is expected, Arguz will catch it and show a clear error message automatically. No extra code needed on your part. This built-in validation saves you from writing lots of error-checking code. This might sound odd, but sometimes you want a --flag style argument that is still mandatory. You do this with required equals true. In this login example, both --username and --password are optional style arguments with double dashes, but they're marked as required. When you run python login.py-username alice password secret 123, it works fine and prints logging in as Alice. But if either flag is missing, argv stops the script immediately and shows an error, like error, : the following arguments are required, : username. Want to limit what values a user can pass in? Use the choices parameter. Here we have a -env argument, with choices limited to development, staging, or production. It's also marked as required. When you run python deploy.py-env production, it works fine and prints deploying to :production. But if someone tries python deploy-env testing, they get an error. Argument -env invalid choice testing. This is perfect for preventing typos and ensuring only valid values are accepted. Need the user to pass a list of items? Use nangos. Here we have -- files with nangos equals +, which means one or more values. When you run python script.py -- files, a.txtdb.txt.text args dos becomes a list containing all 3 file names. The for loop then processes each one, printing processing : for each file. Common nangos values are + for one or more values, asterisk for 0 or more values, or a specific number like 2 for exactly 2 values. This is perfect for batch processing multiple files at once. Have you noticed how Git has subcommands like git commit or git push? You can build the same thing with add subparsers. First, we create subparsers using parser.add_subparsers with dest equals command. Then we add individual parsers for upload and delete. Each subcommand can have its own arguments. The upload subcommand takes a file and an optional -- public flag. The delete subcommand just takes a file. After parsing, we check args.command to see which subcommand was used, then handle each case accordingly. This pattern is perfect for building complex CLI tools with multiple operations. Here's a realistic script that combines everything you've learned. We have a CSV data processor with a required input file and several optional arguments. -- output defaults to out.csv. -- limit is an integer defaulting to 100. -- format is restricted to CSV or JSON using choices. And -- reverse is a Boolean flag. When you run python processor, .py -out result -json -cs format -limit 50 -verbose. The verbose flag triggers detailed output showing all the settings being used, then prints processing complete. This is the kind of script you'd use in real-world data processing workflows. Here's a quick reference for all the argv features we covered. Positional arguments are required and don't use double dashes. Optional arguments start with _ and can be skipped. Boolean flags use action equals store true. Default values provide fallbacks. Type conversion automatically converts input. Required optional arguments must be provided. Even though they use double dashes, choices restrict valid inputs to a list, and nangigs accepts multiple values at once. Keep this reference handy when building your own command line tools. Congratulations! You've learned argv. You can now build powerful command line tools with positional arguments, optional flags, type validation, subcommands, and more. From simple scripts that accept a file name to complex tools with multiple subcommands like Git or Docker, argv has you covered. Time to build something awesome. Start by creating your own script and adding arguments that make it more flexible and user-friendly. Happy coding!